Chapter 1. The first farmers. The sun rose over the rolling green hills of Çatalhöyük, one of the world's first great Neolithic settlements. Smoke curled from the mud brick houses, where families stirred from sleep. The air smelled of baking bread, animal dung, and the earthy scent of the nearby river. For thousands of years, humans had wandered as hunter-gatherers, following herds and foraging for berries. But here, around 7500 BCE, something revolutionary was happening. People had begun to settle down. A young woman named Ayla stepped out of her home, a rectangular house made of packed mud and straw. The walls were thick, keeping the heat in during winter and the sun out in summer. She stretched, looking across the village, a maze of flat-roofed homes, so close together that people walked across them like streets. Her brother, Kieran, was already outside, sharpening a flint knife. "The wheat won't harvest itself," he said with a grin. Ayla rolled her eyes but smiled. Today was harvest day, and the entire village would work together. Chapter 2. The birth of agriculture. The people of Çatalhöyük were pioneers of farming. Unlike their ancestors, they did not just take what nature gave them, they controlled it. Ayla joined the others in the fields, where golden stalks of wheat and barley swayed in the breeze. Using sickles made of sharpened flint, they cut the grain, bundle by bundle. Nearby, children chased away birds, while older women ground grain into flour using heavy stone querns. This was the Neolithic Revolution, the shift from hunting to farming. It meant more food, but also harder work. "Remember the old stories?" Ayla asked Kieran as they worked. "When our grandparents followed the deer." Kieran wiped sweat from his brow. "Now the deer come to us?" He pointed to the edge of the village, where hunters had returned with a wild boar. But unlike before, meat was no longer their only meal. They had stored grain, domesticated sheep and goats, and even kept dogs to guard their homes. Life was changing. Chapter 3. The spirit of the ancestors. As the sun set, the villagers gathered in the central shrine. The walls were painted with vivid murals, bulls, leopards, and handprints, symbols of their world. The shaman, an old woman with eyes like flint, raised her hands. "The ancestors watch over us," she intoned. "They give us grain, they give us life." Beneath the floor of the shrine lay the bones of the dead. The people of Çatalhöyük buried their loved ones under their homes, believing their spirits protected the living. Ayla placed an offering of bread and beer before a painted bull's head. She whispered a prayer for a good harvest. Chapter 4. Danger beyond the walls. Not all was peaceful. Raiders from distant tribes sometimes came, hungry and desperate. The villagers had no army, but they had walls. Their homes were built like a fortress, with no doors. Entry was through holes in the roofs, climbed by ladders that could be pulled up at night. One evening, shouts echoed across the settlement. "Wolfmen!" a boy cried. Ayla grabbed a torch and rushed to the edge of the village. Shadows moved in the tall grass, nomads, armed with spears. But the people of Çatalhöyük were ready. Men climbed the roofs, hurling stones and firing arrows. The attackers, outnumbered, fled into the night. Kieran grinned. "This is why we stay together." Chapter 5. A new way of life. Years passed. Çatalhöyük grew, its houses rebuilt over and over, layer upon layer. New crops were planted, new animals tamed. But with farming came new problems. Disease spread faster in crowded homes. Famine struck when crops failed. And for the first time, people began to own things, land, grain, livestock, leading to arguments. One day, Ayla, now an elder herself, sat with the village leaders. "We must decide," said one man, "who gets the best land near the river." Ayla sighed. In the old days, no one owned the land. Now, they needed rules. Chapter 6. The legacy of the first settlers. Ayla lived to see her grandchildren grow up in a world she barely recognized. Çatalhöyük was now a thriving town, with trade reaching distant lands. But the greatest change was invisible, the idea of staying in one place. When Ayla finally closed her eyes for the last time, her family buried her beneath their home, as was tradition. Her bones would remain with them, just as her ways would shape the future. Epilogue: the seeds of civilization. Neolithic settlements like Çatalhöyük were the birthplace of civilization. From them came farming cities, stored food specialization, potters, weavers, priests. Trade empires. The hunter-gatherers had lived with nature. The farmers sought to control it. And so began the story of human dominance over the earth, a story that started in places like Çatalhöyük, where the first farmers dared to put down roots.